the screech of tires, the collective gasp of horror, the sickening thud that made time itself seem to freeze. These are the sounds that still haunt the intersection of Maple and 5th, where an ordinary Tuesday afternoon became anything but ordinary, where cruelty met its match in the most unexpected form, and where a group of leather-clad strangers reminded an entire community what it means to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Emma Rodriguez had been born different. Cerebral palsy had written its story across her body from the moment she drew her first breath, twisting her muscles, curving her spine, confining her to a wheelchair that had become as much a part of her as her infectious laugh and determined spirit. At 17, she had learned to navigate a world that wasn't built for people like her, both physically and emotionally. The stares she could handle, the whispered conversations that stopped when she rolled past, those she'd grown accustomed to. Even the architecture that forgot wheelchairs existed had become just another puzzle to solve. But the cruelty of her peers at Jefferson High School? That was the one obstacle she couldn't quite figure out how to overcome. Tyler Brennan and his friends had made Emma's life a particular kind of hell. It started small, as these things always do. A textbook knocked off her lap. Her wheelchair accidentally bumped in the hallway, mocking imitations of her speech, which sometimes slurred when she was tired or stressed. Emma's mother, Maria, had filed complaints. The school had held meetings. Stern warnings were issued. But high school hierarchies have their own justice system. And Tyler, star quarterback with a father on the school board, seemed immune to real consequences. That Tuesday, Emma had stayed late for her debate club meeting. She was good at debate, brilliant even. Her mind was sharp as a blade, and when she spoke about constitutional law or environmental policy, even her teachers leaned in to listen. The meeting had run long, and by the time she wheeled herself out onto Maple Street, the afternoon crowd had thinned. The autumn sun hung low, casting long shadows across the crosswalk where she waited for the light to change. She didn't hear them approach. Tyler, Marcus, and Jake had followed her, emboldened by the empty street and their own twisted sense of entertainment. Emma knew something was wrong when she felt hands on the back of her wheelchair. Before she could turn, before she could cry out, they shoved hard. The wheelchair lurched forward into the intersection, Emma's hands fumbling desperately for the wheels, trying to stop her momentum. A truck was coming. She could see it bearing down, the driver's eyes wide with panic, his horn blaring a warning that came too late. Emma closed her eyes. The roar came first, not from the truck, but from somewhere else, a thunderous rumble that seemed to shake the very ground beneath the asphalt. Emma's eyes snapped open in time to see a wall of motorcycles materialize as if summoned by some guardian angel with a taste for leather and chrome. They came from both directions, forming a protective barrier between Emma and the oncoming traffic. The truck screeched to a halt. The bikes surrounded Emma's wheelchair like a fortress. The lead rider, a mountain of a man with a gray beard that reached his chest and arms covered in faded tattoos, killed his engine and was off his bike in seconds. His hands, scarred and calloused, the hands of someone who'd lived a hard life, were impossibly gentle as they steadied Emma's wheelchair. "You okay, sweetheart?" His voice was gravel and honey, rough but kind. Emma couldn't speak. She could only nod, tears streaming down her face, her whole body shaking with adrenaline and shock. Around her, at least 20 bikers had dismounted, creating a protective circle. They wore leather vests with patches reading Road Guardians MC. Their faces told stories of lives well lived and battles well fought. But their eyes held nothing but concern for the girl in the wheelchair. Who did this? The lead rider, his vest identified him as Truck, turned his attention to the sidewalk where Tyler and his friends stood frozen, the smirks melting off their faces like wax. "Which one of you punk-ass cowards pushed a girl in a wheelchair into traffic?" Tyler's bravado crumbled. These weren't teachers or parents who could be charmed or manipulated. These were men and women who'd seen real danger, who'd known real hardship, and who recognized bullying for the cowardice it was. Marcus actually took a step back. Jake looked ready to run. "It was just a joke," Tyler stammered, his voice cracking. "We didn't mean a joke?" A female rider, her graying hair in a long braid, stepped forward. Her name patch read Steel Rose. You think attempted murder is funny? Because that's what you just did, kid. You pushed her into traffic. That truck couldn't have stopped in time. By now, a crowd had gathered. People spilled out of shops and cars, drawn by the commotion. Someone had called 911. In the distance, sirens wailed. But before the police arrived, something remarkable happened. Truck knelt down beside Emma's wheelchair, bringing his weathered face level with hers. "My daughter had muscular dystrophy," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "She passed 10 years ago. She was about your age, and I'll be damned if I stand by and watch punks like those treat someone like my Sarah was treated." He stood, addressing the crowd that had gathered. "This girl, what's your name, sweetheart?" "Emma," she managed, her voice steadier now. "Emma deserves better. She deserves a world where she can go about her day without fear, without cruelty. And if the adults in this town can't protect her, then we will." The crowd erupted in applause. Phones had been recording. The video would go viral by evening. Bikers forming a protective wall around a disabled girl, confronting her bullies with righteous anger tempered by restraint. But that came later. In the moment, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years: safe, protected, valued. The police arrived and Tyler and his friends were arrested. Witnesses lined up to give statements. Emma's mother arrived in a panic, then broke down sobbing with relief and gratitude. The Road Guardians MC stayed until they were certain Emma was okay, until every statement had been given, until Maria Rodriguez had hugged each of them through her tears. But they did something else too. Truck made a promise right there on Maple Street, with the setting sun painting the sky orange and gold. "We're going to make sure you get to and from school safe, Emma, every day, if you'll have us." And they did. For the rest of Emma's senior year, members of the Road Guardians MC took turns escorting her to Jefferson High. Sometimes it was just one bike. Other times, a whole convoy rolled up to the front entrance, making a statement that couldn't be ignored. The bullying stopped, not just for Emma, but throughout the school. Something had shifted in the collective consciousness. People had been reminded that humanity isn't found in strength or status, but in how we treat the vulnerable among us. Emma graduated top of her class. At the ceremony, when they called her name, the rumble of motorcycle engines echoed across the parking lot. The Road Guardians, there to celebrate one of their own. She would go on to law school, specializing in disability rights, carrying with her the lesson those bikers taught her. That family isn't just blood, that heroes don't always wear capes, and that sometimes the roughest exteriors hide the gentlest hearts. And every year on that Tuesday in autumn, Emma returns to the intersection of Maple and 5th, where a small memorial plaque now reads, "Where strangers became guardians," and one girl learned she was never alone.